All right, here we go. Vasavi is on the pod, which I'm excited about. You were brought to me from, this is what happens. You just asked me, you're like, how did this happen? People literally message me and they say, hey, you need to know this person. And so I check out people and I'm like, yes, I need to know this person. So I'm excited to be here with you.
I'm excited to be here with you, Sarah.
It's going to be a great conversation, a great jam session about everything from, so everybody grab your journals, from living boldly. We're going to dive into, if this is cool with you, we talked about
Yeah.
this, bipolar disorder.
Yep.
You talk openly about this on your website and different places where I've, researched you. I have scoped you out. Um, I was like, yes. Uh, and then all things like who we are on it, like the different multifaceted people that we are. So tell us a little bit about you, though. That's where let's start there.
So I love this question because I have recently just allowed myself to go rogue when I answer this question. I'm
Yes,
not just one
yes.
thing. Like I used to say, I'm a licensed therapist and a coach, and I've been doing that for 13 years. And that's great and all. And I love that part of myself, but I'm an actor, I'm a voiceover artist, I'm a speaker, I'm the author of Say It Out Loud. I'm also a wedding officiant. Yeah, I am a licensed therapist. I'm a coach. I go on people's podcasts. I have a group program called Say It Out Loud and Bold Voice. So I do lots of different things. I mean, and what I want to say is like who I am is very much reflected by what I do. And what I do is very much reflected by who I am. They're not mutually exclusive. So it's like for me, I'm a wedding officiant because I'm a hopeful romantic. I'm
Mm.
an actor and voiceover artist because I'm a child at heart, always. I'm very childlike and I love to play. I love to play dress up. I love to imagine. I love to dream. So that's why I do acting and voiceover work. I love to bring words to life. I'm an author. I love to put my thoughts down on paper and be useful to people. So I wrote a book. I have a publishing deal with New World Library. I do lots of different things and they all represent these different parts of me. I have a playful part of me. I have a very loving, soft part of me. I have a bold, brave, loud part of me. I'm quite quirky. And I allow myself to be quirky when I do my voiceover work and my acting. And so I have a lot of fun with what I do. And that really just sums up who I am as a person.
Okay, so I feel like I'm like talking, like I'm listening to me. This is like super cool because I think that when I finally, in my own life too, embrace the fact that I'm not in a box and I can't be put into a box, that when I finally was like, yes, you are a creative human being, and therefore you need to embrace all those creative parts of you. When I finally got to that place, I was freedom, like freedom of expression,
Freedom.
freedom of me. Was there a part in your life when you finally, or where you were like, okay, I'm going to jump off and accept the fact that I'm not a person to be placed into a box?
I've always felt that way, always. But I've always thought that, but it didn't show up in my expression.
Yeah.
Like when I would, with other people, I would try to conform and make it really clear for people what I do, even though in my mind, I'm a total cluster. Like I do so many different things. But when I'm asked that question, what do you do? I immediately feel like defensive and feel like, oh my God, heart palpitations. How do I tell them that I do all of these things without sounding crazy? That's
Mm-hmm.
always been my biggest fear is that I'm going to sound crazy because I do all these things. And on top of that, I'm very open about the fact that I have bipolar disorder. So people are really going to think I'm batshit crazy. So for me, it's always been very scary, like to express it. But I've always known it that I am all these parts. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Like
totally get what you're saying.
I can't lie to myself. Lying to myself is something that I did maybe in my 20s, early 30s, but it's not really something that I do anymore as I've entered into my 40s. I just cannot lie to myself about shit anymore. I just can't lie to myself about how I feel about certain things and things that inspire me and spark me. Like I no longer downplay stuff like that. Like if something inspires me, I go after it. I
Yeah.
don't tell myself, oh, you're just being lofty in your thinking, Voss. Like I used to say stuff like that to myself. I don't talk like that to myself anymore. I would say that it was a gradual progression. of acceptance. It did not just happen overnight. It's a moment to moment choice. And then one day you wake up and then you just don't care anymore. I don't have a specific day though, but it's just been a slow unraveling.
Yeah. So, well, I just turned 50 in August. And
Wow.
so my 40s were exploration and creativity and like throwing shit out the door and just saying, this is who I am. I will say though that when I turned 50, that's been a huge launch for me. That's
Yeah.
been like now I really don't care. Now I
Yeah.
really now I really don't care. Like, you don't like me, so be it. Other people do, and you're creating space for more people that will. So thanks for closing that door.
Yeah.
So let's talk about bipolar disorder.
Please.
Let's dive into it. Like, tell us, give it all to us. Teach us. Like, literally be the teacher for us right now, because I think that this is something that I know that there are so many people that maybe don't understand it. Give it to us though from you.
So my experience of having bipolar disorder, can I curse on this podcast? I think I already did.
Yes. No, of course you can. Yes.
My experience of bipolar disorder goes from either I'm a fucking genius to I'm a fucking piece of shit. That's in any given moment. That's going into extremes. The bipolarity, it's two extremes. I either feel like I'm on top of the world, I'm a genius, I am brilliant, I can do anything, or I'm just a complete waste of life and is better off dead. That's in a low. That's at my lowest. At my highest, I think I'm absolutely amazing and I'm a genius and I'm untouchable. Neither is healthy, right? Because they're two very polar opposites. They're two extremes in polarity if you think about it. And I get it. Polarity is good in dating. If you're a very feminine woman and you're dating a very masculine man, that can be really good for certain situations in that area of your life, dating. But when it comes to your brain chemistry, it can be tricky. It's my brain is wired. I can't explain it because I don't think many people have asked me, but I've made sense, I think, out of it that my brain is just wired very differently. It's just, I don't just feel happy. I feel elated. I don't just feel really sad. I feel utter devastation. But all of that has been balanced out because I'm on medication. I've been on medication on and off for 21 years. And I decided to go back on. I was off of medication for 4 years, these past 4 years. I got back on medication April 1st of 2023 because my unmanaged and untreated bipolar disorder had me picking fights with my sister, who's actually coming tonight to come see me. My sister is visiting me, my older sister. Just picking fights with my mom, and just my brain, the bipolar part of my brain that just is very much on hyper alert and vigilant, with the help of therapy and medication and going to yoga and getting 8 to 9 solid hours of sleep. I wake up at 5 a.m. I go to bed by 8:39. I have to do a lot of things to keep myself balanced. I once read this book called The Tao of Bipolar Disorder, and it said that all that bipolar disorder is just like duality within oneself. And the cure, quote unquote, cure for bipolar disorder is to find oneness within oneself. So, pretty much my whole life, I've had to battle my mind. And most recently, when I decided to get back on medication April 1st, I will never forget what my psychiatrist said. She said to me, you don't have to battle so hard anymore. There's nothing wrong with being on medication. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong if it's going to help you. And I chose to get back on medication because every other week I was having a manic episode, which in my life, how that manifests is just like screaming, arguing, taking everything out of proportion, thinking the absolute worst of people, being in complete fear. And it's always with the people closest to you. My friends would never say, oh my God, Vas is like this, or my clients would never say that. It's with the people closest to you.
Right.
It's the people where the trauma all began. And I was sick and tired of feeling so tired all the time. It's exhausting. So I decided to get back on medication, and it's the best decision I ever made. It's like a warm blanket for my inner child. That's how I
Ooh,
look at taking medication. Yeah.
ooh, I love that. I love that. Did you, did you, when did you start to believe, or when did you start to know or realize that you were battling this, that you had this
I was diagnosed when I was 19. So I was in college at the time, and I was just, my behavior was every single symptom of bipolar disorder, both mania and depression. So hypersexuality, excessive spending, really fast speech, sleepless nights, substance abuse, alcohol abuse. I think I said hypersexuality, promiscuity. And then on the depressive side, like no motivation, really no appetite. So, I went away to college without any life skills, it feels like. I was really sheltered growing up. I was still a brown sheep in my family growing up, and I was very rebellious in my family growing up. But when I went away to college, that's a whole new level of freedom. I wasn't just like down the street from my house. I went away to Boston University, and my family's from New York. That's a good 5, 6 hours away from where I lived. And it was the first time I had experienced freedom, true freedom in my life. But I didn't know how to deal with it. My 18-year-old brain, 17, 18-year-old brain did not know how to handle all that. So it took about sophomore year of college is when I was diagnosed.
Wow.
Because you could no longer ignore the symptoms. Like I had a 1.3 GPA. And then I ended up graduating Columbia with a 4.0. So it's not like, clearly it shows my potential is 4.0, but I was only operating at a 1.3 GPA. Not that it's not about the GPA, right? It's about the person. Yeah.
Right.
Like I was just, clearly I have the potential, but when your mind is not right, you're not thriving with them. I wasn't thriving with the mind that I had,
Oh,
you know?
whoa.
Yeah.
So I wasn't thriving with the mind that I had. Did you go
Mhm.
and seek help?
Yeah. So I basically told my mother, well, my mother could tell that I wasn't doing so well. And she just calmly suggested, why don't you come back home?
Oh,
And I agreed. First time I actually listened to my mother. So I came back home and we went to a psychiatrist, and I was taking psychology. I was taking a psychology class at the time, and I'd already self-diagnosed myself. But then of course we had to go to a real psychiatrist, and we went to a psychiatrist and they diagnosed me with bipolar disorder. So that was 21 years ago. And I've been in denial on and off for 21 years. Like, oh, I don't have, but the more I really understand myself and my mind, I can feel the chemical imbalance. It's brain chemistry, it's just everyone's brain chemistry is different.
I love the fact that we are having this conversation, because I was just having a conversation yesterday with somebody that I had met through LinkedIn. And we were talking, we got onto our Zoom call, and she said, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm good, except that I'm going through menopause, and oh my God, like these changes in me are killing me.
Yeah.
And I
They
think
make
that,
you feel crazy, right? You feel kind of,
ah, well,
yeah.
seriously, girl. And then I told her, I said, now I remember when I was 13, 14, 15, 16, like those years, right? Like we're as women, as young girls back then, I was going through so many changes in my body. And I remember thinking to myself, am I nuts? Like, am I actually going crazy? Like, I remember sitting in the bathroom having these thoughts as I was going through my, fluctuating hormone stages. Now I'm 50,
Mm-hmm.
going through all these changes again and having these hormone fluctuations going, am I like crazy? Like, what's going on within our body, right? Like, because I think that these are the things that we don't talk enough about as women. We just don't have these conversations.
No, and I really appreciate that you asked about the bipolar disorder, because I'm not asked about it a lot, right? Like, because people don't know what to ask. So I appreciate that we're having this conversation as well.
Yeah, I think it's something well, and then on top of it, with my own brain chemistry too, having gone through trauma brain, which we don't talk enough about.
Yeah.
I remember somebody saying to me, like, just quit using that as an excuse. And I'm like, dude, did you just say that to me?
No,
Like,
I
what
can't even.
the hell? I can't even,
Yeah.
like, no, don't say that to somebody, because
No,
it's not okay.
no.
And, having gone through complex PTSD, and my brain chemistry had changed. And then now going through what I am with menopause, I have to sit there and say, okay, wait, my brain's also going through chemical changes as well, which,
Mm-hmm.
hey, listen, Sarah, give yourself some grace and some space to accept, right? And to honor that, because it happens. Like, we go through these shifts, these changes.
That's why I share this stuff out loud, right? Because you may not have bipolar disorder, but you've experienced symptoms of menopause that feel very similar, by the way. And I think
Oh yeah.
I think all of us at the end of the day just want to know that we're not crazy.
Yes.
Because
So many people misconstrue. There is no freaking normal people. Like there's no normal, right? And so it's like, I just want to feel normal. Well, if we're all saying that, because we all are, like, I just want to feel normal, whatever normal is, note that we just said whatever normal is, because I personally don't believe that there's like a normal, like whatever normal is.
I feel like, okay, so here's how I feel about normal. I feel like there's a baseline. Like I
Of
have a
course.
base, yeah, my baseline, like, and this is my languaging and how I say it. It's like when all is good, right? Like today has been an all is good day. Like
Mhm.
it's all good. Everything is like it's a very chill day for me. That for me is my version of normal, right?
Right.
But like I don't like saying the word normal because I'm anything but. Like I don't know what that even means. I for me I have a baseline. I have a status quo. Like how do I know when I'm regulated?
Mm,
How do I know when I'm feeling somewhat balanced? I'm definitely leaning more on the side of feeling mentally, emotionally balanced. Like, not much can throw me off these days.
right.
When something happens, I can immediately, if I hiccup, not actually hiccup, but if I like freak out, my freak out and coming back to baseline, the space between the two has become very small. It's a lot easier for me to freak out and come right back to baseline rather. And my goal is like, we don't even need to freak out. We'll figure this out. You know what I mean? So I just have like just a no freak out rule. Yeah. And you have to understand context. I grew up in a house with my mother. Even to this day, she freaks out about everything. Even to this day, I could tell her anything. And it's always the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is her mentality. And so that is how my brain was developed, to always look at the worst case scenario.
Hmm.
So you're always living in trauma then.
Yeah.
You're always trying to escape trauma. There is no trauma and you're trying to escape it all the time.
Right. Right. Right.
When you grow, I mean, I had a very much of a fight or flight kind of mother, and I now I feel so much tenderness for her because she just can't help herself. Like I just see her and I'm like, she just can't help herself. She just freaks out about everything. But when you're a little kid absorbing that, your brain then develops to always be on high alert, and that's no way to live.
I hope people are really listening to this and understanding this, like
Yeah,
really listening to this, and also applying it to how they were
of
raised
course.
themselves, and
Yeah,
also how they are raising their own kids. I will say that I, having gone through so much trauma at 17, I raised my kids based off of my own trauma as well. And I feel really
mm,
bad about that. And I've had to give myself a lot of grace and forgiveness for that, because I didn't know any better. I mean, I was a young mom, right? And how I also was living was in fight or flight.
yeah.
Not anymore, because then my life completely imploded at 40, and I learned that had to take care of my trauma, had to take care of myself and understand what I was doing. And so now it's taken me a lot, and let's talk about that too. For me, it's taken a lot of looking at my own patterns and working through my own trauma to respond now and not react to what is happening around me.
Yeah,
Kind of flip of the lid.
it's becoming second nature for me to be a person who responds and not reacts. It's becoming. I'm going to say becoming because I'm not going to say, yes, I just don't freak out. No, like it is such an intentional choice for me. When I am sitting there and I receive an email or I receive a text or I look at my bank balance and I'm like, and instead of being like, that frantic, I'm like, no, it's all going to work out. God has our back. I literally have to say that to myself.
Yeah.
God has my back. I'm all good. It's all going to work out. And that's what I tell myself now. I'm becoming that. It's becoming second nature for me.
I love this terminology of the baseline. I love that. And
Yeah.
I've used that in my own life as well. And I encourage others to use that. Has that responding instead of reacting allowed that space to come together a little bit more then? Has it allowed it
Totally.
to not?
Oh, I feel so. It's funny because the space between me responding and reacting, it's like I respond way more than I react. And because that space has gotten less, the spaciousness within me has expanded. I don't want my life to be one where I'm just always trying to put out fires or feel like I always have a fire to put out.
Mm,
And I have to train my brain. There's not a fire to put out, Vasavi. You're safe.
yes. Yes. So
You
that's
don't have,
where this is you're training your brain. This is a practice.
yeah.
Well, it's also, I think, in my own, when I went through so much trauma and forgetting stuff, oh my gosh, like I would forget everything. Like my kids would have to send me 3 text messages. Remember, mom, to do this. Remember, mom, to do this, because that was a part of my trauma, like with what I lived through. And I think that retraining our brain for me, retraining my brain has been one of the biggest things that I have, the biggest lesson, right, that I have actually taken on, the learning. So talk to us a little bit about living boldly in that space. How has the boldness, like, how has this come from that?
My practice is to be honest with myself, no matter what. And that begins behind closed doors. Okay. I'm able to live boldly out loud because and in front of others, because I live boldly with myself when nobody's watching. So I live boldly no matter who's watching. Get what I'm saying? So it's not like oh, shoot, people are here, I got to live boldly, or, oh man, I'm so used to living boldly now, even with myself. I like surprise, I surprise myself with the things that I'm doing. I'm like, damn, look at you.
What's the most bold thing that you've done
Recently? Okay. I was in a situationship with somebody for 5 years. I can't believe I just said that.
Situationship. I love
Well, we were engaged and then we were no longer engaged. I've been married before. I got married when I was 28. And I got engaged again to somebody, and we were in a situationship after we broke up. Usually if you have a broken engagement, you kind of part ways and move on with your lives. We didn't. We were in a situationship, and I just kind of ignored it and was like, whatever, I got other stuff going on in my life. I don't really need to address it. But, you start to think about the fact that it'd be nice to like somebody again and have a crush. And
we were just
talking. And I'm like, that ain't happening if I'm holding on to this person. There's no way I have space for a crush or for somebody to enter in my life if I'm still seeing this person and in a situationship. So I was in Mexico for a month, September to October. I have a condo there, and I was spending time there by myself. And he messages me and he goes, let's go see this movie when you come back, blah, blah, blah. It was this movie that was coming out. Or it was like an old movie he wanted to see. Anyway, I looked at that message and I said to myself, okay, I can either be excited and say, yes, let's go watch a movie when I get back. It'll be so much fun, which is what I would have probably done in the past. I said, or you can finally start to say the thing that you've been wanting to say, which is you want something that's real. You want something that's deep. And so I messaged him back and I said, listen, movie sounds great. However, I want more than a movie. I want something deeper than just a movie. I want something that's real. This is a situationship, and I don't want to be in the situationship anymore. And that was huge for me. And that was very boldly, because I'll tell you this, I really don't have a problem or a challenge with being bold in my business or on these interviews. It's with men that I've always cowered down like a little puppy and just kind of, okay, you can just lead the way when these assholes don't even know where they're going. So I'm in a situationship for 5 years with an aimless idiot. What am I doing? So that was really bold for me, and I'm proud of myself.
I'm proud of you. And I swear I'm like sitting here looking in the mirror. That's hilarious. Yes. I did the same thing. And then I listened to one of Mel Robbins' podcast episodes and Mark Groves. And I was like,
I love Mark. He's a friend of mine.
I love Mark. Okay, we'll tell Mark hi. Like, I freaking love Mark. And I was laughing my ass off, like, as he's, on this podcast and in his lives and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I swear he's just speaking to me right now. He's speaking to me right now. Like, what am I doing? Because you're right. We just like follow along. And I'm like, but that's not me in any other area of my life. So why am I doing this here? Not anymore. I'm not. Not anymore. No more.
So I felt the minute I sent it, I felt so liberated. And then I immediately fear set in, and it was like, oh my God, what if he doesn't want to then be in this situation anymore. Like I'm still holding on to this situationship. And I was like, what are you saying? So like I had to like slap myself out of that real quick. But it was good. He messaged me back like a week later and he was like, let's talk. And we talked on the phone and I said, I want an actual relationship. Like other than that, like what are we doing? And so it's been great. Like since then, not with him. I'm no longer in a situationship. So it feels really good.
Have you blocked him? Have you like blocked all time?
No, because it's like you know when you just I don't know, as a woman, it takes a long time for me to let go of someone, but once I let go, I let go. I'm like done. Maybe it's because I'm a Taurus, but I'm just like I'm good. Like for me, the nail in the coffin for me was saying those words. Because if I don't say it, I haven't expressed it yet. I'm keeping it inside. I'm keeping my truth inside. Once I say something, I can't unsay it. I can't say, oh, I take that back, you know? So I chose the words that I spoke with him very carefully. No, I didn't feel the need to block him.
Yeah.
I don't feel the need. I didn't need to do all that. Like, you know, yeah. I didn't need to, I didn't feel that. I didn't feel because he didn't do me wrong. It wasn't like he did. And the thing is, we just need space between us. Like I can't be like watching movies with you. Like we're not doing that.
I love the fact that you're sharing this because I boldly share all my stuff too. I mean, you know, to an extent. But I think it's important because we go through this. I mean, you listen to the Angry Therapist, you listen to Vanessa, like all of these people that people do follow. It's important to also make sure that we're following the people that are also expressing and sharing what it is that they're going through because they're human too. And if we can go through it and make those bold moves and step up and make those text messages and do the things that we need to do, so can others.
Yes, absolutely. That's why I share it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So tell us about your book.
My book, Say It Out Loud, is a book that'll transform the way you talk to yourself. You don't need a journal. It's just using your voice at the end of each chapter to go through the verbal prompts. And I think it's an excellent instructional and part. I mean, you'll learn about me also and lives of my clients and I share, but it's really a step-by-step guide on how to talk to yourself.
So when you're saying how to talk to yourself, what are some of the steps what are some of the things that are most important when we are talking to ourselves, having that relationship with self?
You got to use what I call compassionate curiosity. It's a combination of both. You got to be compassionate like you would with somebody else or a little child or your own kid. Hopefully you're compassionate with your child. And curiosity, like get curious about yourself like you would with a younger child, but just be curious about yourself and your creative process and how you think and how you be and how you do things. So compassionate curiosity is one. Gentle determination is, when we're dealing with the voice of resistance that stops us from going after our dreams, we don't have to give up. We just need to play with our voice and talk to ourselves in a way that's firm, yet kind. So gentle determination is another. And also, it's not crazy to talk to yourself and respond back. That's another thing. None of this stuff is going to work if you think it's weird. But I'm suggesting to my reader to not only ask themselves questions out loud, but also respond back because you have the answer.
Yeah.
You just need to prompt yourself. I don't think it's weird to talk to yourself out loud.
I talk to myself a lot.
Yeah. And that's why this book is like kind of disruptive because I'm essentially telling people to talk to themselves out loud.
Which is amazing.
And that's how you transform the way you talk to yourself. Because how can you look at the way you talk to yourself if you keep it all in your head? Everything sounds the same.
Right.
Pretty much sounds the same.
Right.
Everything is just like boom, boom, boom. And if you have one voice that's louder than the other, it's hard to tap into other voices that you have.
Did you always know you were going to write a book?
Nope.
What brought this up?
It was the pandemic, and I found my friend Rochelle I came across a woman named, she's now my friend, Rochelle, who has a book proposal blueprint program, which was 13 weeks to write your book proposal. And it was the pandemic. I was newly single. And I said, let me dive into a creative project. So I wrote a book.
I love it. I love it. What was the biggest process out of that you learned? Like, what was the thing that you learned about yourself?
That I have a very unique creative process and that it works for me, period. And I got to find what works for me. And once I find what works for me, I'm good.
Where do you see yourself going in the future?
I honestly hate that question. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. No, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I don't like that question, and I'm probably not going to answer it. I have worked very hard to develop my faith in God that everything is going to work out. And it's not that I don't have a vision, and it's not that I don't have a plan, but every time I find myself getting stuck with that, or like having to answer that question, I end up like focusing more on that. What I do know is that my future is very bright. It's definitely involves helping a lot of people, and I see myself being in a relationship, in a very securely attached relationship that's going to be very healthy for me. I see myself being in a relationship with someone who is going to not be jealous of me, for one, and not be intimidated of me, and really just be like, oh my God, wowed by me, and absolutely love me for the shining star that I am. So that's my vision for myself. I think it's always like when people ask me about my goals, I'm just like, can we talk about anything other than that? You know what I mean?
You completely answered the question. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and I'm not a goal person either.
yeah.
When I think about my future, I think about how I feel in my future.
That's all that
How
matters.
I embody my future. It has nothing to do with anything else. Like,
Because when you feel good, you can do anything. Like my thing is like, yeah, I want to feel freaking like I want to have vitality, vibrancy, sexiness, like all the things. Like I know how I want to feel. So that's the feeling that I just love to chase.
you radiate so much energy, like, which I love. I love this. I love this.
Thank
If
you.
your future self was having a conversation with you today, that future self, let's say the future, so this is how I'm gonna take this question. That person who is taking their last breath, okay, if that person, that future version of you, is having this conversation with you today, what would you be conversing about?
Thinking about this. This is an excellent question. It's making my brain not work right now. Hold on. It's a great question. I don't have an immediate answer, which
All right,
is a
you don't
good
need it in
thing.
the brain, just drop into the heart. Let's bring from the heart space.
To be honest, I don't know if we'd be conversing or we'd just be sitting in silence and just be happy and content with one another. But if we were to converse, I think it'd be a conversation where my future self said to me, I told you to trust me. It's all going to work out. Just trust me. I told you. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's do this the opposite, the youngest version of you when you were born, having the conversation with you today. There's a
So,
reason.
so is this what I would say to the younger born or what the younger born is saying to me?
Doesn't matter.
I would want the younger child would say to me to guide her, if it's fun, I want to do it. That's it. If it's fun, I want to do it. Yeah.
The reason I wanted to do that is because we were earlier talking about all these different versions of us, right? Like all these different parts of us that we have, and showing up as ourselves.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always talk about with my clients is having that younger version of yourself show up, right? And to be able to embrace that younger version of who you are, literally every part of you. And then also those future versions of us that we are stepping into, right? Like we don't know how long we're going to be stepping into those versions. It could be, I always say I want to live to 108. I don't know. That's just my number. But really also embodying every person, every version, every part of who you are right now, as you are also stepping into those versions that you are becoming. And I also don't look at it like they're the goals or the numbers or the age or the any of that stuff. It's literally embodying how I want to feel and how I want to be in this world. And so I love having those conversations with our future selves and then those younger versions of ourselves as well, because we learn a lot from that future person that we're going to be, and then the younger version of who we've been.
That's right.
So what else would you want our listeners to know about you, about their life, about the teachings that you've also had, the things that you've learned about your life?
That when you prioritize your happiness, your creativity, and your fun, everyone around you benefits. Well, not everybody. There might be people who don't like it, but it really does benefit. I mean, like, and it doesn't have to benefit everybody, but it is like, if you really want to use yourself in this lifetime and be used up, then there's no time like right now. You know, you got to give yourself a shot. That's what I always say. Give yourself a fighting fair chance to just figure it out, to go try something new, to invest in yourself, to read something, to go to that movie, to go take that trip. Like that, you can never go wrong when you invest in yourself, and do it for the right reasons. Don't just do shit because someone's telling you to do it. Like invest in yourself because you actually want to. I want to share a really quick example. I signed a new client actually 10 minutes before I got on this podcast interview. The day before we spoke, and he said, he goes, I really want to work with you. Do you mind if I just, he said, I'm just kind of getting, I'm just having second doubts, I'm just starting to doubt myself. I go, listen, this is a big investment. Take 24 hours and get back to me. That's what I said to him. A full 24 hours. I go, if you need me via text, you can ask me any questions about the process or whatever. And I forgot to text him after 24 hours today. And he just messaged me and he goes, I'm ready to work with you. And that just proves it right there, is that when we give ourselves the space and give others space to just figure stuff out for ourselves, like we can come up with the right solution. But I think we're so in a hurry to get the answer and like get the right answer that we're not investing the time and space necessary to get the answer. So just take time with yourself and be patient.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to have met you.
Thank you. I'm happy to have met you too.
Definitely. I'm so happy to have met you. There's a lot of alignment with what you're talking about and how I also have approached life for the last 10 years and what I've learned in responding, not reacting, and taking space. And it's really
I'm glad it resonated. Yeah, I'm glad it resonated.
I think the coolest thing too is understanding, like for all of us that are going through anything, have gone through anything, those people listening, you're not alone. And I think for so many of us, we have felt alone. And coming, for me anyhow, in my journey, I've met some of the coolest people coming out of my own trauma, and like really sitting and having conversations with people and saying, oh my God, you went through something that's very similar, different, similar.
Yeah.
So cool. It's so cool. So thank you for being here and sharing your journey with all of us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you? Where can they get your book?
You can get my book. It's available everywhere. You can go to vasavikumar.com/order the book. But it's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, Books A Million, all the places. And then you can find me on Instagram, and my handle is, my name is Vasavi.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.